So, hi Robin, welcome to No Idea Whatsoever. It's really good to finally have you here.
Hi Devki, how are you?
Good, good, thank you. How are you?
Good. It's quite hard to do formalities with a friend.
I know, but I mean, we've already, we already know what's going on in our lives, and obviously you're such a dear friend. But thank you so much for taking the time. It's really,
No,
I know you've been super busy, so this might not be the easiest thing for you to do, but I'm so glad you've taken out some time for me.
no, I've been feeling really guilty about it. I've been like, oh my God, I've promised Dee like a while ago, and then we should do this. I'm like, okay, in this break when I'm back here at home from the IPL, I'm like, okay, I want to do it, and then I'm so glad we're doing it right now.
No, and it's so amazing because, I actually told my team that I was going to do one podcast with you, and they were like, "What? With Robin Uthappa? You mean the cricketer who plays for India?" They couldn't believe it. They were so excited. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, him." So they were just like, so obviously we know so much about each other's lives, but a lot of people don't. And so I wanted to ask you a few questions, circled around your life, just generally your views, etc., related to so many different things that, people want to know about. So my first question, for you is, did you always know you were going to become a cricketer, or did you not have any idea?
So for me, my first memory of myself is of me playing cricket. My first conscious memory of myself as a human being is of me playing cricket. My mom rolling the ball to me and me hitting the ball with a plastic cricket bat. Not even like I didn't have a handle. The handle was broken. So plastic cricket bat I hit it and I hit said six. So that's my first memory of myself. So I always knew that I had something to do, like the cricket was going to play some part in my life. And I
Yeah,
initially played tennis as a sport. My parents wanted me
yeah.
to play tennis as a sport. So I played tennis for about 10 months, 11 months or so. And then as a 7-year old, I went to my mom, I opened the newspaper and said, I want to go here to this. I want to play cricket. And then that just led to 2 days later me seeing the first pair of cricket gloves because my dad kind of surprised me with this pair of cricket gloves. It was I still remember like a deep yellow kind of pair of cricket gloves, and I just like mind blown. And then a week later, I joined the academy, went to the British Patel and Imtiaz Cricket Academy, and then that's how kind of cricket began for me. I was lucky that my parents kind of backed, what I
Yeah,
wanted because I think as a 7-year old, they were quite surprised that a 7-year old went to them and said, "I want to do this."
yeah,
And I remember I was 8 when I told my mom that this is what I want to do for a living. Even if I earn 10 rupees from it, this is what I want to do. So I think, in a sense, I knew that cricket was my passion, and I know that it's in today. Even today, it's I consider myself a student of the game, and I try. And the game teaches me so much, just about life and how to kind of navigate through life.
yeah. No, but I mean, it's so amazing that your parents backed you, but cricket is a sport where millions, I mean, in India is actually everyone in India loves cricket, watches cricket. Millions of people aspire to play cricket. Were they quite supportive of your journey, or was it a little bit like, you also have to study because school is extremely important, and maybe you will not become a successful cricketer perhaps, and so you have to focus a little bit more on education. Was it like that, or was it like you do what you love and do what you want?
Oh, absolutely. Back then, it was more about okay. When I told my mom when I was 8 that this is what I want to do and for a
Yeah,
living, even if I earned that, because back then cricket there wasn't money in sport at that point in time. At least there
correct.
wasn't big money in sport, right?
Yeah,
So my dad, coming from the sport background itself, I think, they knew that how passionate athletes are and sports
yeah.
people are. So dad, being an athlete himself, a sports person himself, was like, okay, let's back him because he ran away from his home at the age of 16 just to play hockey.
Wow.
So he
Oh,
understood what
wow.
passion, you know, it's a whole other story. He ran away like with 14 bucks in his pocket because his dad wanted him to join the army and he wanted to play hockey, and he kind of hid in the shed for one night when his dad was looking for him, and then his mom knew where he was hiding, so kind of called him over and gave him 14 rupees and said, Go to Bangalore and try and pursue whatever you want to pursue and live with my cousin and all." And that's how it began for him. So he understood what it took to pursue a
Yeah.
career in sport, and if someone's passionate about it. So my mom and dad were truly passionate, truly supportive. I have to give them a lot of credit for it, especially mom. She literally had to learn driving to drop me to the academy and back.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so mom really supported me a lot. And yeah, as in, so their backing was there, and it couldn't have been possible, at least the initial years, till I got clear, till I kind of made it through the ranks and was considered a little bit of a prodigy growing up, was a little ahead of the curve. So in that sense, they felt okay that their backing was important. But my mom drove it home that,
Yeah.
son, you can play cricket all you want. You got to study. You got to like, I don't care how much you get. You got to complete your education. You got to
Yeah.
make sure that that is done. To the extent that I'd won a World Cup and come back and I hadn't completed my graduation. So mom said, I
No.
don't care if you're a World Cup winner, you go and finish your education, go and finish your examinations. So I went after winning a World Cup the following year. I finished a year later. So in 2007, I was supposed to finish my graduation. So, but I finished my supplementals and arrears in 2008. So I went in 2008 and I actually finished it up. And if it wasn't for mom backing me and pushing me to it, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they drove it home. In fact, even at the age of 16, mom and I, in fact, had a conversation. In fact, dad had a conversation where I was 15 years old and like, okay, I'm in this place where I need to make a life decision, because then it's like after 10th standard, are you going to take commerce? Are you going to take science?
Yeah.
So it's a decision. So for me, it was either becoming a cricketer, or it was pursuing a career in medicine. So it was the
Oh,
important
wow.
conversation.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's
So
like two extremes.
yeah, it was two very different things.
Imagine Dr.
Uh,
Robin Uthappa. Like that would be quite incredible.
it would be.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. No, but
so
how
so
was
yeah,
it in
their backing
school
was
with
there.
the teachers? Like, were they quite,
Oh, very bad.
yeah, were they very
Good
like,
and
what
bad,
are
to
you
be
doing?
honest. My teachers didn't really understand it, but my principal, Father Michael John, who was the principal of St. Joseph Boys High School where I studied, really, really understood it and kind of backed me a lot, because he
Okay.
recognized me as a very talented young kid and who could, kind of go through the ranks. So
Yeah.
he really, really tried. They really pushed me because because I was like I said, I was a little ahead of the curve. So by the time I was 16, I played first class cricket. So I was playing first
Yeah.
class cricket
So
when
you
I
were
was first year,
famous when
like,
you were 16.
oh yeah, by I was, how you're considered prodigy. So I was considered a prodigy growing up, right? So
Yeah.
especially in Bangalore and in the Karnataka circles, I was considered a prodigy and someone. So I was the youngest player to play Ranji Trophy cricket for
Yeah.
Karnataka. At the age of 16, I made my debut. So
Yeah.
it was in a sense. So in school, so I was literally in 11th standard when I played first class cricket.
Yeah.
So in school, so already by 9th and 10th, I was already playing under 19 cricket. I was playing under 16 cricket. I was ahead of the curve. So as a 14-year-old, I was playing under 19 cricket. I was playing under 16 cricket. I was in that sense slightly ahead of the curve. So um, I needed support in school. And
Yeah.
because I was out, by the time I was 12, I was already out from school for 3 months in a year, 4 months in a year. My mom
Yeah.
would go to school, take down notes from, like, because
Oh,
you had to take
wow.
down notes. Mom would go and take down notes so that I could study it, and I would have so my math really suffered because the new
Yeah.
concepts and all that, you needed help. And teachers could only help that much because they're dealing with 60 students
So
at a
many.
time
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
multiple sections and multiple classes, because they're not just teaching one age group. They're
Yeah.
doing 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and then
Yeah.
multiple sections of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
to give individual focus was really difficult. But my principal, Father Michael John, really tried to back me as much as possible
Yeah.
to where he could. And then I realized in 10th standard that, okay, listen, this is going to be really hard to complete ICSE.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of 10th standard, I had to make a life decision whether I would complete it in an ICSE syllabus or go to a state syllabus, which is comparatively easy compared to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ICSE.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay. And I knew by then that, okay, cricket might be the way I go. But till that point, I make that decision. I don't want to lose a year. So I had to make an important call at that point to say,
Yeah.
okay, I want to complete my education. I don't want my education to suffer. But I still want to play cricket. So for 6 months, just for the sake of not losing a year, I shifted to an FSLC school. It was called
Yeah.
Bangalore High School in
Yeah.
Bangalore. And they backed me as well, allowed me to go out and play cricket as much as I can, and just turn up for examinations and make sure I pass. And then, so I had enough information,
Yeah.
all the curriculum I needed to pass the examinations. So they supported in that front. So I had to leave in the middle of 10th standard. I left St.
You
Joseph's and
have.
went to Bangalore High School just to finish my education. And I came back to St. Joseph's and joined college back there.
Yeah.
So I had all the support from school.
That's amazing because, and it's interesting because we have so many, I had my well, friends in school who were really into sport, and not everyone could play professionally. But there was so much pressure on them to play sport, to study, and that's when do you when so obviously since you made it, and you went through this in school, do you think that students who want to pursue sport professionally should have a different curriculum perhaps, or within their school, so that they don't have to leave school and then go to something known as open school, which is
Yeah.
superbly frowned upon by the whole world, that oh, now you're an open school, but it puts a lot of mental pressure, and it's almost like you feel like you're doing something wrong by doing something unconventional, only because the ratio of people making it is so slim. So what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
So thank you for asking this question. So it's like I'm gonna plug in what we do as well as far as education and sport is concerned. We've actually started India's first sports integrated school. It's called the
Wow.
Sports School. It's based out of Bangalore. We started in 2020, and
Congratulations.
and thank you. It's for anyone who wants to pursue a career in sport or want to make sure their
Yeah.
education doesn't suffer. We've got 5 sports in the school at the moment. We've got cricket, tennis, basketball, football, and badminton. I
Okay.
run cricket. Rohan Bopana runs tennis. Pulela Gopichand runs badminton. Bangalore Football Club (BFC) run football, and we have
Yeah.
NDA India, I think, who run basketball.
Yeah.
And we're including a few more sports as time go by. It's a 1,000-bed residential school. We have
Oh,
about
wow.
we're at 350 right now, and it's CBSE syllabus, so goes on from fourth standard to PhD.
Yeah.
We're affiliated with Jain Group of institutions as well,
Okay.
and they help run our education. So it's basically, what I got from my mom is like, okay, because I know the value that education actually has on
Correct.
a career like sport, right?
Yeah.
Sport is a very short career, Deepti. So,
Yeah.
so you want to make
Yeah.
sure that you don't miss out on your education, because when you finish playing sport, right, the
Yeah.
drop is a big drop.
Absolutely.
It's a
Yeah.
massive drop, and your sense of significance is lost. Your earnings are dwindled by a big margin. So a lot, your whole personality and your whole self as a whole takes a big hit. So one of the things that can hold you in good stead is a solid education, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in India, to pursue a career like, for example, in cricket, a lot of
Yeah.
athletes have to let go of their
Drop
education.
out. Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to mention here again, Jain Group of Institutions and Chenraj Jain, the founder, has done an incredible job of supporting sports people across the board. And when I say sports
Yeah.
people, I mean every sport, right?
Yeah.
I studied I finished my college and graduation from JGI, Jain College in Bangalore. And literally, he would see me in college and he would be like, "What are you doing
Why are
here?
you
I
here?
don't need you to be here. Get out. Go and practice. Be where
Yeah.
you need to be. Come back
Yeah.
here only for examinations." He would actually ask me, "Do you have a girlfriend in college? Why are you in college?" you know.
Yeah.
And he would say,
No, absolutely. And that's a
unless
fair question.
and
Yeah.
he would like send us away, and he for all of the athletes, and we had a huge bunch. There was Pankaj Jivani, Shika Tandin, Sheetal also was from our college. She was a senior. Rohan Bopana, all of us, Mayank Agarwal, KL Rahul, all of these guys, right? All from Jain College, and all of us athletes. A month before the examinations, would have special classes for a month. We'd like cram that the
Yeah.
entire
The
year's
year
education into that
syllabus.
one month, and
Yeah.
then we would actually go from 7 in the morning to 6 in the evening and stay there and study. And that's literally how we graduated. First year of BCom, second year of BCom, final year of BCom. That's how we graduated. In fact, I was an art student
Yeah.
in 11th and 12th,
I can totally
right?
imagine that for some reason. I can totally picture
And
you being an art student.
so I was an art student, and then no college in Bangalore were willing to accommodate a
Yeah.
seat for me because of attendance. They were like, "Oh, you need a minimum of 80% attendance,"
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah. Yeah.
already
Yeah.
playing professional cricket at that point in time. So they were like,
Yeah.
"Sorry, we can't give you a seat." And Jain College called me and they said,
And
"You know
said,
what?
please
Why don't you
come.
join our college? We'll support
Yeah.
you. We don't have an arts category, but we'll try and create one for you." And they tried, and then they
Wow.
said,
That's
the
incredible.
universities, yeah, Bangalore University isn't allowing us to create one for just one student, and we don't have more inflows. So we'll support you with BCom, and you come. And I had no base with
Yeah. Math and
with
accounting and
commerce
whatever.
and
Yeah.
all of that. And they actually kind of from the ground up helped me up. And
Wow.
today I'm a commerce graduate. And so they are pioneers in helping athletes and anyone who's athletic and
Yeah.
pursuing a career in sport to actually support them with education. And today, in conjunction with them, we've created this school for anyone
Yeah.
from a young age to actually
Yeah.
pursue a career in any
Absolutely.
sport that they want. And
Yeah.
that's what we do. And I think that's integral to have, right? And I think
Yeah.
for anyone who wants to pursue a career in sport, you want to make sure that your education does not suffer, because the well-roundedness that brings, the confidence that gives
Yeah.
you to fall back on something when you do finish playing your career.
Yeah.
And you have to give a lot of credit to parents to be able to
Yeah.
support their kids in that dream, because they have to be equally invested in that dream. To be able to navigate through that for a long period
Absolutely.
of time is hard, because a lot
Yeah.
of times a lot of kids either pursue a lot of parents make their kids pursue their dreams, and they live their dreams
Yeah.
vicariously through their kids, or they don't
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah.
And then a lot of
Yeah.
times a lot of parents don't know how to navigate through uh, how to support their kids
Yeah.
with a career in sport, because they see that, okay, kids want to pursue it, we'll support them, but they don't know how to
But
navigate
then,
through it.
yeah, absolutely.
And today with the sports school, we help them navigate through all of that, because
Yeah.
we approach it from a very holistic point of view. We try and add
Yeah.
value from different points and from different angles. And in a sense, we give a well-rounded approach to school. So it's
Yeah.
like 4 hours of school, and then the
And
rest
the
of the
rest
day
is the
is
sport.
spent on playing this sport and playing multiple sport initially, and then choosing
Yeah.
whichever the sport you
Correct.
want to get into eventually.
Yeah.
And it's a very disciplined life. And sport in general, whether or not you end up pursuing a career in sport, you end up becoming a well-rounded human being, a disciplined human
Absolutely.
being, someone with discipline, someone with values, humility, because you encounter
Yeah.
winning or losing on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
success and defeat, success and loss on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. So
A lot
it
of
humbles you as a
teamwork
human
as
being.
well. Yeah.
You build resilience. You know how to work
Yeah.
within a team atmosphere. So
Yeah.
it teaches you a lot. So
And I
it's
think all the life skills that people try to inculcate in the classroom, is everything actually from the sport side of
yes,
learning that they pick up and they put
yes.
everything you're talking about, leadership,
Our
teamwork,
curriculum is actually
resilience.
built also. Our
Yeah,
curriculum is actually built also within sport. So whatever they're
exactly.
teaching
Yeah,
in math or in physics, they
yeah.
use
Is
sport to teach them so that it's easier to
exactly.
learn.
Gravity is taught by a ball. Exactly. So
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
actually, and I think, the government really needs to do things about this because there are so many people. For example, you mentioned that Bangalore University said you can't create a course for one student or making things difficult for people who really want to pursue sport professionally. If they were just to, I mean, we talk so much about curriculum, we talk about different professions, for example, coding and robotics and AI, and these things have become so big suddenly. The whole world
Yeah.
is talking about it. But
Yeah.
sport, which is an age-old thing, and now India is leading in so many, whether it's the Asian Games, Olympics, or cricket, of course, we are the champions in the world. But there's so much that that we as at the government should be doing to promote this and actually make life easier for sports people to be able to pursue it without really having to sit and take the same exams, do the same thing because they're not the same people. Their
Correct.
entire calling is different, from the other
Correct.
ones who want to go into mainstream jobs. So just to have two different individuals do the same thing to achieve two different goals just makes no sense. Actually, if you come to think of it, it's actually devoid of logic. So
Yeah, it is actually a bit of logic. And I think it's guys like you, right? Like what Instructor is doing right now, trying in pursuit of trying to work with governments. I think the government expect people to come up, the entrepreneurs to come up with ideas,
yeah,
and it's amazing that you've done that. I'm going to find a way for you to integrate, hopefully even with the sports school, because it'll
yeah,
be great for these kids
absolutely.
to learn new languages while they're at it, right? Because all of this adds to their career in sport, or their any other career that they
Yeah,
decide to pursue within sport or outside of sport, right?
yeah,
So I'll try and see if there's a
yeah,
synergy there. I'm certain there's a
absolutely.
synergy there.
In
But
fact,
I
I
was
think one of the courses, yeah, sorry, go on.
coming back to the governments. I think of course they need to do their bit, but I think they hope for entrepreneurs and visionaries to
Yeah,
come forward and say find ways. And
absolutely.
I think they're a little bit more open to working with working with entrepreneurs and with ideators and innovators in a sense. I think guys
Yeah.
like you play a big part in kind of taking this to the masses. Now, if you can take this, and I think you're in pursuit of that, and congratulations for being in pursuit of that, to work with governments and taking it to government schools, because
Yeah.
man, for government schools to have this option
Yeah.
to even learn another language,
Yeah.
or learn a
It's a
couple of other languages,
luxury.
is
It's a
amazing.
luxury. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, and I
yeah,
think, especially with the kind of talent available in India, everyone, there's so many people who, even, in fact, we were working on this project where girls from Jharkhand are learning Japanese, are learning Mandarin, are learning German,
wow,
because they don't even know Hindi because they speak in their tribal languages. But they're
yeah,
learning this so that they can just go abroad to work, because there's
yeah,
so much opportunity abroad for them. And suddenly,
yeah,
just the thought of them having to sit and in fact, I went to the university and I was talking to some of them and I'm like, so what does your father do? And one of them was like, my father's a businessman. I was like, oh wow, what business does he have? He's like, he has a pawn shop. And she is learning German to go
wow,
and work in Germany. So languages can really open your horizons. And not just that, I think when you were talking about the curriculum, etc., one of the courses that we teach is public speaking. And it's such an important life skill to have, because as a
yeah,
sports person, no matter what you do, you're always,
yeah,
whether it's at a national level, domestic level, anything, right? um you're always interviewing, you're always speaking. There's so much communication. We talk so much in our curriculum about emotional intelligence, resilience. All of these
mm,
things are so important in your day-to-day life, in general, in any relationship, but
yeah,
especially when you are always in the public eye. For example, even for you, public speaking is such an important skill, which actually is not
yeah,
taught in school. There is
absolutely,
just
yeah,
no importance given to it, aside from, if you join the debating society and you're good at it, we'll take you in.
correct,
But that's not,
correct.
I mean, how does a child even know what they're good at unless they're actually taken to, that section and said,
Or
what,
given that
try this?
exposure.
Exactly. So, but
Yeah,
it's incredible. I think the school that you've started, what you're doing is much needed. And, we really, really would love to work with, you on this,
yeah,
because I think
yeah,
this is exactly what we're striving towards together, to make sure
yeah,
that children are well-rounded and the opportunities don't end at just one place. There should be plenty of opportunities and literally for them to pick and choose from, you know?
absolutely. I agree with you. And I think the only industry in the world that hasn't changed with the times has been the education industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every other industry in the world has changed. And I think
Yeah,
it's time that we open up the education industry to the
yeah,
extent where people can pick and choose from a very young
yeah,
age. Especially a lot of people know, there a lot of kids know what they like at a very young
yeah,
age. Why not
yeah, yeah,
expose them? Like if you can expose them to robotics at the age of
yeah,
7 or 8 or 9,
yeah,
instead of going through the whole rigmarole of studying things that are not related to
yeah,
robotics, if they can
absolutely.
channel all their energies into just robotics, then you're actually creating a super specialist.
Yeah,
And if the education system can afford that, because
yeah,
we need more innovators in the world, we need more independent thinkers
exactly.
in the world.
No, and I think, more than anything, one is obviously that the government is trying to change the curriculum. There have been a lot of different policies that have come up, but they also need to add experts from all industries to train educators to train these children. One thing is, of course, changing the curriculum, etc. But at the grassroots level, a person who's a messenger, who's a teacher,
Mm, mm,
they've also been teaching for 30 years, 20 years, but they need to change the entire way of teaching. They need experts like yourself, to come on
mm,
board, really, and be on a panel where, you learn from different personalities, because what you have done is actually achieve something in real life and not just on a piece of paper, which is a grade that everyone gives so much importance to, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
And when children learn through role models, that inspiration, that motivation is so pure. It's not
yeah,
forced. And once that
yeah,
comes and you evoke that emotion, then automatically things fall into place.
yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things we're actually actively trying to work on right now at the sports school is to include finances as a
Yeah,
subject, to teach
yeah,
kids how to deal with money.
yeah,
How to read contracts that they
yeah,
sign. How much they're going to earn, what goes to taxes, what goes
yeah,
towards your agents. What go
yeah,
and how much you end up earning. How to make investments. Like we're
yeah,
trying to include that as a part of the curriculum,
Yeah.
hopefully in the next academic year, so that we're empowering kids to think independently about how they
Yeah.
would deal with their money,
Absolutely.
so because that's the best age to learn things, right? They visualize things.
Exactly.
Kids are so visual in their
Yeah.
in their minds. So
Yeah.
to kind of encourage that thought process. So I'm so glad we're doing this, because it's like, okay, this whole
Yeah.
thing about public speaking, languages is
No,
such
and
important things
you were
and great
talking about
synergies.
this. We have a whole course on financial literacy, by the way, which talks exactly about
Really?
this, which is saving and its importance, debit, credit, and it also teaches you, about the market, RBI, different central banks in the world, how currency works, and these are life skills. I mean, you shouldn't be working professional only to know how to file your taxes or know what they are. Like I only learned it because I had to start filing taxes. Until then, I had no idea because no one talks
Exactly,
about it in
right?
school. For
And
in school, trigonometry and geometry was more important than filing taxes. Really? Like,
yeah.
like why? Why was that the case?
And I keep asking myself and ask my friends, I don't know, where in our worlds today are we using trigonometry?
Yeah, exactly.
How much we had
That
to JLO
sine and cos.
trigonometry, man. Yeah.
Listen, I
And
have
today,
hidden my books and my notes, and the teachers literally used to be like, they would look at me and be like, leave the class. Because I was like, listen, I don't like this, but I loved studying certain subjects, and I really did not like certain subjects. But instead of
yeah,
them actually also being empathetic towards the fact that, this is not my favorite thing in the world, they were just like, okay, you're in class, leave the class, and then we start our topic
yeah,
for the
but
day.
see, also, yeah, but and again, also it goes back to we why the education system by the Westerners, how they were created, right? It's so
Yeah,
far from the Gurukul system. If you
yeah,
go back to the history of
completely.
India, if you go
Yeah,
back to the history of India, there's one Brit, I don't know who, I can't, I wish I could remember the names, but this story goes that when the Brits came to India, and then they were kind of scouring and wrecking India.
yeah,
And they was like, how do we control the masses here? And one of the first things they said, they had one particular person go around the country for a couple of years, and then he said, if you want to bring this country down to its knees, you have to first destroy the education system.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and then so they completely shattered down the Gurukul system.
yeah.
And then they moved away, because the Gurukul system is very, very different, right?
Amazing. Yeah,
Uh,
and it was really
right?
good.
And something that served our society, and it served
Yeah,
and it was about pursue what you're passionate about, what you really enjoy, right? And
yeah,
they were taught in the outdoors. It was not taught indoors in a classroom. It was all taught
correct.
outdoors, right?
Yeah,
And it's all about life skills. It was all about
yeah,
life skills. And then that was completely destroyed, and the Western way of education was introduced, right? And we're
correct.
indoctrinated by that. And if you go back to the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds of the world, they created the American system of education. And
Yeah,
when he said, I'm and like, okay, what are you trying to achieve with this? I'm trying to And what he said is, I'm not trying to create a country of
entrepreneurs.
entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
I'm trying to create a country of employees. So
correct.
this is my employee system. So the system itself is
Yeah,
designed in a way to restrict your thinking,
yeah.
to
To
not
curb
allow
your,
you to,
yeah,
yeah, to not allow you to think big, to not allow you to think laterally, but to think more linear. And
yeah,
they dictate how linear it's going to be. So
yeah.
even the teachers, unfortunately, are not allowed to
They don't
think
have,
laterally.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't have the freedom to think laterally. They have to
yeah,
think very linear, right? And
yeah,
that's why it's for us to kind of innovate the education system in our own
correct.
way, to kind of hopefully find a government official who's willing to break away from the normal methods
Yeah,
of education that's been indoctrinated for the last 200 and 250 years in our country,
yeah,
to actually break away from it and probably go back to our Indian Vedic system of the
yeah,
Gurukul system, and actually find a way to kind of find a hybrid model that
yeah,
serves society across the board, and create a country of innovators, to think independently. And
yeah.
that's why today the innovators in the world are guys who drop out from school, drop out of
Yeah,
college, because they realize
exactly.
that this doesn't serve us
Yeah,
anymore, you know, even in our
absolutely.
own country.
No, absolutely. And I think, all of these stories that you hear about people, I mean, look at the Zerodha founders, for example, their stories are
Exactly.
outstanding. And the things they have to say about the education system, or, the things, I mean, they you're the black sheep, and suddenly the whole world is talking about you a few years later, just because you've achieved something incredible. But also you have, they must have been in the right circumstances also to be able to achieve that, and I
100%.
think,
And I commend any parent who allows
yeah,
their kid to pursue
yeah,
homeschooling, or any parent who allows their kid to pursue their passion and make sure that their education is taken care of, right? What do
yeah,
kids need to know? Like from like today, with whatever little exposure I have of the world that I've been in,
yeah,
right? I know that I need to know math, right? I
yeah,
need to understand. I need to know math for finances, right? I need to know a few languages so that I can communicate well, and I
yeah,
need to have social skills. So
yeah,
school provides me these three to a certain extent. After that,
correct.
like today as a parent, I'm very happy, and my wife knows this. I'm very happy if my kids study till fifth standard in the school, and after that pursue whatever they want to pursue in that they're passionate about. If it's
Yeah,
outside of school, great, pursue it outside of school. We'll make sure that your basics, math, languages, social skills are
yeah,
taken care of. Those
yeah,
extracurricular activities are taken care of. Like we can lean into what you're passionate about, what your true calling is about.
yeah,
Right? If your true calling is in the sciences, stay in school,
correct.
educate yourself, because that's the best place you can
Yeah,
educate yourself, and
absolutely.
find a way to innovate within those sciences, right? Because
Yeah,
sciences have a place. Like there is a place for school and society, right? For the sciences, there's a place for people who
yeah,
want to are truly passionate about math, to get into the
yeah,
algebras and the trigonometries of the
yeah,
world, and the
yeah,
to all of that. You need to stay in school. But if
yeah.
you're passionate about it, if you're not passionate about it, you shouldn't be doing it.
I
So
agree.
parents also have to be innovators in their mind and say, okay,
Yeah,
how can I serve my kid in a way where they can lean into what they're passionate about? Because at the end of the day, if you're pursuing your passion as a career, money becomes incidental. Then work is fun. It's not
absolutely.
work is play. Then
Yeah,
it's easier to navigate through the ups and downs of life, because you're pursuing something you're
yeah,
passionate about. So today I know that whatever I'm doing, like today I chose, even though I chose as an 8-year-old, that even if I earn 10 rupees from this, mama, I want to do this. And my
yeah,
parents allowed me to do it, right?
yeah.
But they said, complete your education, because for the time and space that we lived in at that point in
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But for me,
Even now, you have to complete your education. By so many,
yeah,
I mean, parents, they're like, listen, do what you want, but complete your education. Finish
yeah,
your what
because
grade 12.
if you can if you can communicate well, right?
Yeah,
If you can learn how to communicate with another person, if
yeah,
you can be kind and empathetic and communicate
yeah,
well, and if you can look after your finances, that's all you need, honestly, right?
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
public relations it's public
absolutely.
relations, communication, empathy, and finances that hold you good in
Absolutely.
life. Those are life skills, and you need that in life.
Yeah,
Now, if for example, coming back to my story, like at that age, at 8 today, I'm pursuing my passion as a cricketer. I'm not playing in India, I'm playing outside of India. I'm truly passionate about the game. Yes, there are ups and downs that I go through in the game, but they're still fun. They don't
yeah,
seem like work to me. I'm not, it's every day is when I'm playing cricket, every day is fun for me. It's I
yeah,
go out there enjoying myself. Whether I experience success, defeat, loss, it does not matter.
yeah,
I'm like, hey, I'm learning, doing this is fun, and I'm earning money through this. I'm like,
yeah,
what better way to serve my family than through my passion? Then I inspire my kids to say, hey, pursue your passion in life,
yeah.
and let find a job that is within your passion in life, so that you're not working to earn money. You're living your truest passion to earn
Yeah.
money.
But I think that's so amazing, Robin, because obviously you have done something which is highly unconventional from the mainstream education, and it's extremely revered in this country to play cricket, and you've done so well, and you're such an amazing person to talk to in general. You're so good at everything you do. I mean, even from cricketing now to commentating, you're and the exposure you're giving to your children with respect to do what you want is so incredible. But there's so many parents who are so conditioned, unfortunately, by the societal constraints. For example, you have to get good grades. And if you don't come in in the top five, you can't do this, you can't do that. And unfortunately, obviously, that's changing. But it's changing at a very, I would say, slow pace because even now, the way things are done are, there's so many, in fact, and I keep talking about this because whenever I speak to someone, about Instrucco, they're like, yeah, so how will this help my child get good grades? I'm like, is that the only thing that matters to you? Do you not care what your child learns in terms of, whether it's communication, having empathy, learning through stories, building life skills? These are things that truly matter because I can't remember anything I learned in school that has helped me as an entrepreneur because I have had some really rough days and it's really hard when you're a single founder, you're working nonstop.
Yeah,
The only thing that truly counts in that minute is your resilience and just your self motivation, which is not even talked
yeah,
about. There's no case study, and well, there's no role play around it, there's no activities around it. It's just something you have to develop on your own if you're lucky, and if you're not, then you're just part of the thing where you have to, sometimes you can't go through it, and there's so many
yeah,
mental health issues that come up because then you need support. But if this is addressed at a grassroots level from the very beginning when you're young, as opposed to constantly harping about grades, children would be so much more successful as an individual, and not as a
yeah.
and not what society has benchmarked for them, you know
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think now that you're in this, right,
yeah,
it would only do so well for you to push that narrative, right? To
yeah,
say to say that, hey, life is not just about grades. Life is not
yeah,
just a child's life shouldn't just be about grades. It's about empowering them to go through their lives in a way that they feel empowered about
exactly,
themselves with, right? And to give them the confidence, because see, at the end of the day, if you're confident about something, you're giving yourself the best chance to succeed. And
yeah,
how do you get confidence is by upskilling yourself. I give a lot of credit to a lot of cricketers because who pursue a career in cricket, because to pursue a career in cricket in India, you have to give up education.
yeah,
98 of
yeah,
98% of us haven't finished education past eighth standard,
yeah,
right? They upskill themselves individually by
yeah,
learning languages, by learning how to speak in the
exactly,
public, by making their mistakes and learning along the way, right? And like Instrucco can be actually be something that can also be provided to athletes such as them, right?
yeah,
To develop those life skills. Because like today,
absolutely.
look at I'll give you an example of a Rinku Singh. Like Rinku Singh probably had to give up his education, comes not from even a middle class
And
background,
yeah,
you know, and he's today made it to the highest levels of cricket in India, right? Now
yeah,
imagine if Instrucco can work with him to develop his speaking skills, his public speaking
correct.
skills, like the confidence that he'll just give himself, like
Yeah,
the like what he'll benefit from it, and the value he'll add to himself, right? And in every area of life, it could, like, he would actually start thinking differently because of his confidence levels. Now if parents
absolutely.
can think about that from a younger age.
Yeah,
And the thing is, because as a society we're driven by, or we're driven by fear, right? We're so worried about log kya kahenge.
yeah,
We live in this
exactly.
narrative of log kya kahenge. it
Yeah,
is it is such a load of, like,
yeah. I
bull crap, honestly.
yeah,
you
it
know
was horrible.
यार आप अपने घर में क्या चलेगा, isn't what works for us, what makes this family tick, what, like, लोग कहेंगे यार, आप कुछ करो या ना करो, people will still say what they want to say.
Exactly. Yeah,
Like, figure out what works for you, and what makes your family tick, or what makes your marriage tick, or what makes your relationship with your kids tick, and do what serves that. It's okay
yeah.
if it doesn't serve somebody else. Like a large size, like a small size shirt is not going to fit me. Now I'm not going to say, yeah, log kya kahenge, and wear a small size shirt and be uncomfortable through the rest of my
Exactly.
life, right?
I love that analogy.
But you know
No. Yeah, no, I
but
agree.
that's how we
This is
go
a
through
big
life.
problem here.
And if
Yeah,
parents can think from that point of view, that, okay, listen, how can I serve my kids? Because at the end of the day, if you think of log kya kahenge, and then if you lose your relationship with your child, your parental relationship with your child over the period of your
yeah,
life and their lives, like, imagine what you're putting them through, and what you're putting yourself through.
absolutely.
Foresight
Yeah,
is not something that we're blessed. Like, we should actually think about it from and use foresight and say, okay, what is the larger picture? How is this affecting us? Am I
yeah.
worried about the smaller picture or the larger picture?
Correct. No, absolutely. And I think especially when you're talking about log kya kahenge as a person who's represented India at a global level, there would have been days where you did so well, and people would have been like, he's the best cricketer in the world. And then there were days that you probably didn't do that well, and people would have been like, kick him out of the team and do this, and he doesn't deserve to
Oh
play.
yeah.
How can that, like, and so, but how did you deal with all that? Because I really, like, my heart goes out to any sports person who either gets out on zero or makes 100. I'm just like, listen, just this is just really, really not. I mean, it's really sad because it's the same people who will love you one day and really be against you the next day. So
Yeah,
how did you
and
deal with that pressure?
so you just switch off from it. It's outside, like KL Rahul does. No, it's outside noise, and it
He's really
truly
good
is
at it
outside.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good, and you get good at it by going through the whole rigmarole of
Yeah.
the amount of like crap that's loaded on you, right? And then you realize that okay, the only way to deal with this is to not listen to it. So I played at a time where I was at the cusp of social media and the
Mm.
newspaper age, right? So how I dealt with it is I stopped reading the newspaper at a young age, whether
Yeah.
I did well or did badly. I just stopped reading the newspaper. I like that has its own narrative. Let that run. I'm not going to look into it. And then I stopped reading as in dealing in social media. I have my team that looks after my social media. I just let that run by
Yeah.
itself, right?
Yeah.
And then I put up stuff when I want to put up, especially my personal stuff that I want to put up. I put it
Yeah.
up when I feel like putting it up. But otherwise, it's like it just runs on its own. You just close things up, and then you focus. You just put horse blinders on, and you say, okay, let me work on what works for me. And you just kind of channelize yourself and say, okay, this is what works for me. And you're human because it does affect you no matter what you
Yeah.
do. Like after a
Exactly.
certain point, it's that energy of hate that keeps coming to you, right? You have to build a thick skin after a point in time. It's like growing a callus. You keep
Yeah.
using it. You just grow a callus and say, okay, that part doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Initially it hurts, it burns, and it becomes a callus, and then you just kind of in your mind you create a callus in certain parts of your mind. It's like, okay, now chalega yaar, it does not matter anymore.
Yeah.
Log jo kehna hai log kahenge. And if you're going to go through life where everyone loves you all the time, there's a problem somewhere,
No,
right?
absolutely.
you, not everyone's going to be liked. Everyone's going to be hated. You have to go through that. It's a balance of life,
Yeah.
yin and yang of life. Some people are going to love you, some people are going to hate you, and such is life. Just go through it.
But now, do you think is that obviously because of social media, there's a lot more pressure because everything is so live and everyone has an opinion and everyone has a voice. But how was cricket, in back in the day when you started to what it is now? What has changed about it so much in terms of marketing or, just generally as a sport? What do you think is a stark difference?
The difference is before journalists were allowed to have a large opinion, an opinion that or a narrative that were put out to people, and people would base their opinions based on that narrative.
Yeah.
Today, because of social media, everyone's a journalist, and everyone's got an opinion because everyone's got a backside now.
Yeah.
So you just say, okay, everyone's a journalist now because of X and because of Instagram and
Yeah.
Facebook. Everyone's got an avenue to put out their opinion, and yeah, and everyone's got their right of having their own
Yeah.
opinion. Why not, right? But and that's where you today, every athlete or every celebrity or everyone who's out there in the public forum is
Yeah.
trying to control their own narrative, right? As long as you're aligned with your own narrative based on, and I would say based on your purpose in life, ideally based on your purpose in life, and not something that
Yeah.
you've created, then you would live a fulfilling life, or like a life that's I would say the most fulfilling life would be one that's aligned with your soul's purpose. I know it might
Yeah.
sound a little spiritualistic in that
No, but
sense, but
yeah, you're
I think if you're aligned with what your true calling is in your soul, then and if your narrative is aligned with that, then you're giving yourself the best chance to live a very fulfilled life.
yeah. And now, of course, back in the day, you had cricketers who were just very simple. Like, well, there's Kapil Dev and Shrikant, and I remember I loved Rahul Dravid. He was my favorite. I mean, I used to wake up and be like, I love this man, and it was so, and it was just so sweet hearing them, and it was very also innocent and very nice. And cricket used to be such
Yeah,
a because also they weren't so attainable. You weren't seeing everything they were doing every minute. There was no social media, so every time you saw something, it really had a novelty to it. It was like,
yeah,
wow, today you saw Rahul Dravid. Like I remember once seeing him in Siri Fort, and I was a young girl, and I literally like ran because I was so excited. Probably like, but now because of Instagram, you see everything all the time. Who's dating who, what's happening. But do you think it's extremely important now for every cricketer to, aside from just playing a good sport, also market themselves now? Is that a huge part of the sport?
yeah. Unfortunately, playing sport at the highest level, I can speak for my field in cricket.
Yeah.
Just playing the sport well doesn't suffice. You need to play the game. being marketable, being a niche of your own, being a brand of your own, and what brands will you cater to, and a lot of that needs to be built up, and for you to have a sustainable kind of long time kind of career in
Yeah.
cricket. So that becomes a part of the narrative as well, and that's where I think, speaking well,
Yeah.
fitting in the right places. A lot of these things add a lot of value, right? To be able to speak well, to be able to communicate in different languages well. I think these are things that hold good. These are life skills.
Yeah.
These are not educational tools. These are actually life
Yeah.
skills that everyone
Absolutely.
needs to have, and that's become a very integral part of having a career in sport today. Yes, there's nothing wrong in speaking in the language you can speak in, but even to be able to speak that in a way that's articulated in the right
Yeah.
way, to be able to articulate what you think,
Yeah.
what you put out there. Sometimes you say you perceive it in some way, but you don't really know how to put that out in a way that
Exactly. Yeah.
you're understanding it. The articulation, the art of articulation also is
Yeah.
important, irrespective of
Absolutely.
which language you're putting it across it. And I think these are skills that every athlete needs to have nowadays.
Yeah. No, in fact, I remember one of the things when I started in Strucco, everyone used to ask me, what is the reason? And I was like, it's so important because I myself have suffered this, and I know so many people who do that. We all know what to say, but we don't know how to say it because we
Mm,
know exactly what's going on. But when we're speaking to someone, most things that we actually want to say get lost in translation because we're just not using the right words, the right tone. There's so many your body language, etc. So much matters. I can say one thing to you in 500 different ways, and each
yeah,
thing will have a different emotion. Um,
yeah,
so it's so important to teach that. And I think, especially for somebody who's on a public platform, they are role models for everybody. And it's very
yeah,
important to hear them say the right things or say things that, you can sort of be inspired by very often. And
yeah,
unfortunately, that burden comes with being famous.
yeah. I'm curious to know, does Instructor actually conduct these same or have the same offerings for adults?
Yeah, we do actually. We teach languages to adults. We have etiquette training. We teach financial literacy. We teach public speaking. In fact, had a lot of
Yeah,
people do public speaking with us. I myself did that course because I was just so intrigued and I loved it. In fact,
yeah.
one of my passions growing up was always I love to talk, which I'm sure you're aware of. But speaking is one thing, but also just philosophy, history, political science, all these things, were so important to me growing up that I really wanted to inculcate all of this in the curriculum, where kids
Mm,
at least get exposure to things through stories, whether it's sport,
yeah,
whether it's empathy, patience, kindness. And then, you parents can choose what they want children to learn. And in fact, we've had
yeah.
parents also do courses on public speaking, Spanish, French, because I mean, there's no age to learn, especially a language,
Absolutely.
especially. And I think it's
I
so
think
important.
this will do so well with corporates, because a lot of
Yeah,
people end up working in corporates, right? In
yeah,
the corporations, right? And
yeah,
with in these corporations, I think if you can, and a lot of team leaders, there are a lot of members within the team, and they all often have to present stuff, and these are
yeah,
things that they can actually lean into, and
yeah,
especially if this is an offering that the corporates have access to. I think it's a great synergy that people can actually add value, because a lot of people want to do this, but they
yeah,
don't know that
yeah,
this is available.
yeah,
So not just young kids and parents, but this can be offered to even kids, corporates. I think this would be something
yeah,
that uh, I would imagine a lot of people would take on, because a lot of people have a lot to say, but they don't know how to say it. They don't have the confidence to
yeah,
say it,
yeah,
because they've never worked on their public speaking skills, and they don't
correct.
understand it's a skill that can be learned even.
Absolutely.
People believe that
Yeah,
it's a talent. Yes, certain
yeah,
people have the ability and it's a talent that they're born with, but this is
yeah.
actually a skill that can be learned.
Absolutely. And in fact, it's actually quite technical in the sense that, our entire public speaking course is based on Aristotle's philosophy, which actually is used by some of the best public speakers like Obama, where you
Mm,
kind of you're using that ancient philosophy even today to speak. So it's actually also highly technical. It's not just that because you're speaking well and you're proficient, you've become a public speaker. There's so many
yeah.
different things that you are required to learn, including your research skills, your tone, your body language. And
Oh
there's
wow.
actually an entire format to it, of what
Oh
you say
wow.
when. You don't just a speech has so many different layers to it because first you need to
Mm,
start with something, then you go on to the next. And it's actually highly technical. People just think that, oh, if you're giving a great interview, you've become a public speaker. It's not like that. It's actually, that's why certain people's speeches are the best in the world. And that has actually come from great amount of research and all these
Yeah.
ancient, philosophies, especially Aristotle's, which have been inculcated in our public speaking course as well. So it's highly
Wow.
technical.
I might just take you up on that. I think I'll just do that. I'll do that
Please do. You're
public
welcome
speaking
to, and
course. I
then you
will.
can actually teach others also, since you're so good at it
100%.
yourself. No,
Yeah, I
but
think
tell
it
me,
sounds so interesting.
it is. No, it is super interesting. And even when I was learning it, I was like, how hard can it be? And when I actually started learning about it, I was like, wow, these are things you don't even think of. But
Yeah,
there's surely Aristotle knew a few things more than us, which is why
100%.
probably he did what he did.
He had a
But
lot more time, no social media.
yeah, I agree. But tell me, from cricketing to commentating, how has that journey been? I love hearing you speak. You actually, it's actually very interesting because you come up with great analogies. You have amazing, and you're brutally honest. I think that's one of the qualities I love the most about you, right? So,
Thank you.
how is it for you being on all these shows and just speaking suddenly from playing? How do you feel about that?
Quite good, honestly, and I quite enjoy it because, like I said, the cricket's my passion, and anything related to cricket, I always like. Man, there's so much to learn. It's so exciting, and for me, I know I've recognized my purpose in life, and for me, I find a way to be able to exercise my purpose in my passion, and that's
Yeah,
like a sweet spot for me. So for me, when I go out there, I'm like, okay, I want to give a very, as much as I can, a neutral narrative
yeah,
about what's actually happening. I try and explain from the cricketer's mindset as to what the cricketer is possibly trying to achieve by doing what they're doing on the field, or what sometimes oftentimes with say KL is a very dear friend.
mm,
But when someone's playing cricket, I don't necessarily talk to them, but but I'm honest about what I think he's doing right or
yeah,
wrong, right? For example, KL this year initially was in a shell, and I didn't feel like he was expressing himself like he should
yeah,
be expressing himself, playing how he
yeah,
does play, and when he thrives as a cricketer. And I was very vociferous about that, and
yeah,
I kind of put it out there, and like very like
yeah,
over and over again, like oh man, I really hope he tries and plays his natural game, because he's really, by going to the shell, he's not really expressing himself, and I think he's
yeah,
disallowing himself from playing to his true potential.
yeah.
And I think he should play to his true potential by going out there and trusting his skills and trusting his teammates and saying that they will take care of what they need to take care of. I need to just go
And
out there and play myself, And in able to do in trying to do that, maybe reached him, because after a certain point, you're suddenly just going out there and batting.
and
And I remember having a
exploded.
conversation with him. Yeah. And having a conversation with him about, on his birthday, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm so glad. It's like, I'm so glad you're just going out there and expressing yourself." And like, yeah, it took a while coming, but it just happened. And I think people who understand the game and understand cricketers and understand their psyche, they know that, okay, oftentimes the narratives that happen around you kind of start affecting you, and it somehow directly or indirectly has an impact on your game.
Yeah,
And the other side of the energy needs to keep being thrown out there. It's in a sense, you hope that it reaches that person in one way or the other, so that they go out there and play to their truest potential. And for me, my whole objective is to kind of give a neutral perspective, give a cricketer's perspective while I'm
yeah,
speaking about the game, and give the viewers an understanding of what the cricketer is actually thinking, and from a
yeah,
technical standpoint, why they do what they do really well, you
yeah,
know. And it boils down to just a couple of things, but if you can repeat that often enough, and if a few cricketers pick that up,
yeah,
and then they lean in on it,
yeah,
it can become the secret to their superpower, you know. uh,
yeah.
and that's one way of probably adding value from in a very indirect way to anyone who's pursuing the game of cricket, and that's why I do it, and it's fun.
And of course, communication is key, right? Because you have to communicate with your team members off and on the
Yeah,
field. And
yeah,
um, do you think, well, again, not everyone, like we said, knows how to communicate. Sometimes, you know what you want to say, but even to your team members as a captain, or, when you're discussing things, uh, does that sometimes create some miscommunication on the field due to,
yeah.
just lack of communication within the team members? And is there some, I mean, how do you address that? Because it can be such a, how do you know that that's happened, that there's been a lot of miscommunication, or it's hard for me to sort of identify how that would work.
So I would say for me, and that's why I oftentimes say this, that the world we live in today needs more empathy. Because you might want to communicate something to somebody, right? If I want to
Yeah.
communicate something to you, but you're not in that headspace of being neutral for you to
Yeah.
receive what I'm saying to you in a way that's beneficial for you, even.
Yeah.
Then I need to be empathetic enough to say, okay, I don't think this is the right time. Let me create that space and time for this person. Like, hey, I want to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me like 15 minutes of your time to, like, I just want to share something with you that I think will be beneficial to you, possibly even to us or to me. Can you
Yeah.
create that space and time? And to actually just have that, the empathy to actually have that conversation, to create that vacuum of space where
Yeah.
you're getting into that space in the neutral time. And if the person's not ready, or if he's not ready, she'll tell me like, okay, you
Yeah.
know what, not today, maybe a
Tomorrow.
week from
Yeah.
now, whenever we can, to actually have that give and take a little bit, to have that conversation. Oftentimes, even within teams, based on their own individual performances, they find themselves in difficult spaces where they can't comprehend what you're saying, perhaps even in their
Yeah.
best intentions, in your
Yeah.
best intentions, doesn't come across to them in that particular way. So to kind of create that vacuum of space and time is also important. And if they're not there, then that means they're not ready to hear it, right? And you can approach it in a way where, say, okay, I can give you an example. I actually had a conversation with Rohit Sharma when he got his 264. And I was batting with him, and I was just going in the bank, and he was dog tired that day. He'd
Yeah.
already scored 150 in Eden Gardens, and it was in Calcutta. We batted first, so it's really, really hot. And I knew he
Yeah.
was dog tired, but I knew that he
Yeah.
was at the cusp of creating something really wonderful for himself and for Indian cricket. So I went up to him and I said, you know what, bro? I said, I know you're tired. I know you're exhausted, but I think you're at the cusp of creating something really magical here. So let me do one thing. We have 10 hours to go. I'll just feed you strike. I think you'll get 200 easily. But let me just feed you strike, and you just go out there and express yourself. And maybe at that point, all he needed to hear was
Was that
that word of encouragement to say,
correct?
hey, he was so dog-tired, he probably didn't occur to him that, hey, he's at the cusp of creating something magical here. He just
Absolutely.
needed someone to just kind of say that to him for him to get into that
Correct.
headspace. But if I just went out there and said, okay, I have 10 hours to bat, I'll also score runs, let him also score as much as
Yeah.
he can,
Yeah.
he probably wouldn't, like, he would have probably been
No.
working against the tide.
Sure.
But here, I created a space where he could work with the tide, you know,
Absolutely.
and then he maximized that. And
Yeah.
in a team sport, if you can do that, as a leader or as an innovator, if you can think like that and say, how can I maximize this situation? Maybe it's not for me, but for my team. If I
Yeah.
can maximize, how can I maximize that? Because
Yeah.
the team benefits, and you believe in the
Absolutely.
long run, it'll benefit you in one way or the other. It always benefits you. It's good
For
karma. It'll
sure.
come back in some form or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
In life, it'll come back. So if you can create that space and if you can think from that perspective, then you work from that empathetic place, and then that's an example that I can give you, a
Yeah.
personal example. And if you can operate from that space, so even if someone is not in that headspace, but
Yeah.
if you can create that vacuum of space in them of time for them to exist in that headspace, then
Yeah.
they kind of like see how they can maximize that potential, and they realize that, okay, that conversation that you're having with them is from a good place, and it's not
Correct.
from a negative space, because we live in a
Absolutely.
in a country where
Very
it's in
competitive.
general
Yeah.
very competitive, very insecure. So
Yeah.
no one really trusts people easily.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
communicating these things and to have the ability to communicate that is also a critical skill.
Yeah. And are there any professionals who, sit down with the team and explain this, or is there any coaching that happens around it? Because surely everyone needs this, when you're,
I'm actually doing this right now.
and
I just told you
are you
before we
doing it for
started
the
this
Indian
interview.
team as well?
No, as in I've just begun doing.
But
I'm
it should
just
it should really be a mandate, right? Like, shouldn't you surely as a sports person have to go through something like this with your team together, to
it,
understand, because there's so many nuances and it's so difficult.
Yeah, there are. It depends what the captain needs. It depends what the authority who's running the whole thing needs. What the narrative is, what their priorities are. Is winning in a holistic manner. Obviously, winning is the priority, but winning.
Yeah.
How do you get to
How
win? Is
you
it a
win.
long-term
Yeah.
goal? Is it a
Yeah.
consistent goal, or is it just a short-term goal? What are the powers that we want? What is their priority? A lot of those things run the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Like a captain comes in there, like, okay, how do I run this team in a way that in the time that I'm running the team, this is the narrative that I want.
Yeah.
I want my players to be healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy in a way so that their performances add value. So to have someone like a mind coach or a life coach
Yeah.
operate within the team,
Correct.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, to kind of help them navigate through that. And today I'm a life coach, and my
Yeah.
wife's been a life coach for the last 10 years, and
Yeah.
I've just certified myself to become a life coach because I know that this is an area where I can actually help and mentor anyone who's pursuing a career in sport, to maximize their goals, because or challenge their limiting beliefs and break those limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
and kind of explode into what they want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
And I've gotten into that space right now, and I'm super excited about it, and something that I actually want to do on a large scale as well. And I'm sure I'll get to work with teams
No,
along the
absolutely.
way.
In fact, I'd love to invite you, and in fact, I'm doing one with Sheetal soon. I spoke to her and said that, you must come, and because she's such a super mom, and, she's always such a positive person, and it's super easy to talk to her. And I was telling her that you must, you're such a great parent. You must talk to, you must express yourself to other parents and tell them what you're doing, for things to be so holistic. And, she's always so happy and just relaxed and calm. And, most mothers I speak to, they're like, we're so exhausted, and the kids and the this and the that. And she's just the complete opposite. I don't know how she does it. It's actually amazing. She's like a Wonder
Yeah.
Woman, really. No, but you should also come. There's so many parents who have so many questions, and I'll be happy to sort of, if you want to ever give a message out to people who are looking for a life coach, especially for kids who want
Yeah.
to pursue sport as a career, and who want to speak to you and get some guidance from you. We have 50,000 students who learn with us, and I'm sure from all over, including the UAE, etc. And I'm sure they'd love to. And no one knows you're doing this professionally, but if they find out, I can definitely imagine
Yeah, for
you
sure.
being super busy. We probably have to book appointments years in years before you have time now.
No, but I'm also going to be doing a lot of group coaching, not just individual
Yeah,
coaching, but also group coaching,
yeah,
at an affordable price, because I want to be able to impact as
of
many people
course,
as possible,
absolutely.
you know, in a way that everyone can afford it, and we can
Yeah,
do a group coaching. And people want individual coaching, then we can get to that as well.
yeah,
But it's something, yeah, I very happily do, and do it in a way that benefits all of us,
yeah.
and
No,
really adds value
absolutely.
to people, and
Let's talk
especially
about
parents.
this. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it off the
absolutely.
podcast,
Yeah,
but it's something that Sheets and I both come from challenging childhoods, and although there's been support for both of
yeah,
us
along the
in
way. Yeah.
in our sporting careers, and in our this one, a lot of what we've learned for our parenting has come from what we've
Your own
experienced as children as well,
experiences. Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
and we only learn from our experiences. We either let them define us in a negative way, or let them define us in a positive way, and we
Absolutely.
believe we've allowed them to define us in a very positive way, and we've kind of applied those learnings, and we're exercising those learnings with our kids, and
Yeah.
hopefully along the way, as we continue to do the work we do with together, we'll start working together at some point. And when we start working together, and we're actually in the process of creating programs for couples and relationships, and for parents and young parents,
Yeah.
and especially young parents,
Yeah.
and especially parents who are supporting their kids in a pursuit of sport,
Correct.
in a pursuit of a sporting career, because we've
Yeah.
gone through that. We've pursued successful careers in sport, and we understand what it takes to support your kids
Exactly.
in a so we're building programs for all of that, and along the way all of that will come up.
No, I can totally
But yeah,
imagine that a lot of people are going to want to know about this, because there's so many parents who, it's such an unforgiving job, right? Like, you always
it
look
is.
back and you're like, I could have done this better. But actually, there is nothing like that. Like, what you're doing is your
Yeah,
best at that point, and
people don't
you can only,
realize
yeah,
people don't realize that when you give birth to a child, you also give birth to parents. you
yeah,
know so
exactly.
it's something you
It's the,
learn on the job,
exactly.
depending on the time and era and the space and time you're born in.
Yeah.
So I don't fault my parents for anything. I think they
Yeah.
did the best job they
Absolutely.
did with the tools they had.
Yeah.
And every generation have the limitations. Today we might think that we are the best generation to be parents, but in 40 years, 30 years down the
They'll
line,
be, yeah.
they'll be like, oh my god, our
How
kids will
could
say
they do something like that?
our
Yeah.
parents did the best job they could with what they had, because
Yeah.
you can only that's only what you can do, and you try and do it the
Absolutely.
best you have, right? The best you can with what you have. And I think, like, Sheets is someone who's I think is superhuman Today, she is all that you say she is.
Yeah,
A little bit of a tongue twister there, but she's being all of that while going through postpartum depression. Uh,
absolutely. Yeah,
so that's a challenge in itself. And
yeah,
there's so many learnings today from a husband's perspective, and
yeah,
from a father's perspective, uh, as to how to navigate through that as a husband
yeah,
and a father. Whilst for her, she's going through that as a mother and a wife. There's so many
yeah,
learnings of going through
absolutely.
parenting and being a wife while going through postpartum depression.
Yeah,
And these are things that we always operate from the place of, okay, we will go through challenges and we will go through periods of discomfort and pain, but how can we allow that to serve us in a way that once we go through it, we are able to empower ourselves and use that to empower ourselves for ourselves in our
yeah,
relationships with our parents, or with our kids, and with ourselves as a husband and wife,
yeah,
and with our friends and families around us, and valuable
absolutely. Yeah,
people beyond beyond that period. Because you can
yeah.
allow suffering to serve you, or you can allow it to serve you in a negative way or serve you in a
Yeah.
positive way. It's a choice
And I
that you
think
need to
that
make.
comes from being honest with yourself, which both of you are brutally honest with yourselves. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it comes from log kya kahenge. It comes from not being
yeah,
embarrassed of the journey you've had, because
yeah,
sometimes we ourselves don't want to admit that this happened in our life. But actually, if the minute you start, one is just acknowledge that it's happened and just let it process and not be so hard on yourself and just be okay.
yeah,
Like things happen and
yeah,
it's a part of the
yeah.
journey. And I think that's where if you can't even acknowledge what's happened, you can never learn because you'll always run away from
Correct.
your own fate.
Yeah, and we operate from this place that हमको घंटा फर्क पड़ता है कि लोग क्या कहेंगे.
I know that.
Like, it does not make a
I know
difference.
that.
Like it's our ship. It's any holes in our ship are our holes. We'll fill the
Yeah,
holes the way we want to fill the holes. Every ship will, along its journey, will go through breakdowns and all of that. We know
yeah,
that we want to stay on the ship. We don't want to jump ship. We're never going to jump ship. We'll stay here. We'll fix. Like, we operate from this. I often
yeah,
say this: the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it and nurture it. So we water and
absolutely.
nurture our grass, and it'll be as green as we need it to be, as long as we're working on it.
No, but that's amazing. And I really genuinely believe that this program that you're creating is so important for parents, young parents, single parents, single
Yeah,
mothers. There are so many of them that we have at Instrucco who struggle, and just hearing both of you will really inspire them and actually sort of motivate them that and tell them that
yeah,
everything they're doing is okay and it's going to be fine. And it's parenting is not easy, but at the same time, it's
yeah,
not hard either. Like it's
yeah,
innate to us. It's part of us.
yeah,
So
yeah,
um great. Thank you so much, Robin. And I have loved our conversation. You are such an
yeah.
amazing
So
person, positive person. I've been smiling the entire podcast, just hearing all your stories. But thank you very much for coming. And I'm really looking forward to our collaboration on this. And I
Yes,
definitely think you and Sheets should come and speak to, all the parents, or at least they should be aware that you're doing this. And, whoever's interested should definitely reach out to you for this.
absolutely. And thank you so much for having me,
Of
on
course.
the podcast. It's been an
It's been a
absolute
pleasure.
pleasure. I
Yes,
apologize that it's taken so long to happen. I'm glad it
that's
happened when it
okay.
happened, because I think it's happened at the right time. Because we've spoken about so many things we
Absolutely.
probably wouldn't have spoken about, six
Yeah,
months, 6 months ago.
yeah,
But yeah, as in, I agree with you. As in, there's that single parent thing. I
yeah,
just feel inspired to share this. A lot of single parents often think that one of the, and it happens very subconsciously. Sheetal is also a single parent child, grew up with just her dad. So
yeah,
one of the things single parents often make a mistake about is make that child their significant other.
yeah,
Uh, and my request would be, please don't do that. You're doing a disservice to your child by making your child the significant other. Allow your
yeah,
child to be the child. You have to play the role of a father and a mother. You have to know when to shift between that masculine and feminine energies.
yeah.
But I felt inspired to share that. But so that was
No,
that.
it's
But
important. I agree.
Devki, thank you, as in for
Thank you
for
very
for for
much.
doing this. This is beautiful. If there's any way I can serve you in Instrucco, I will be so happy to do that, and we'll do that with
I
an
know.
open heart.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing what you're doing, because I think you're creating magic, and I believe magic happens quietly. And
Thank
to
you.
to be able to offer this to kids in government schools is incredible. I already see a lot of partnerships that I'm going to speak to you off air,
Yes.
and I'm going to make that happen, and which will help you reach out to more governments and more states, to spread your wings in India.
Thank
And
you.
again, if I can do anything to serve you, we'll be more than happy to serve.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you very much.